Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the 2023 anime called Kingdom of Ruin. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins as we are told that God created humanity, and then he created witches. God, being much nicer than I would be, shared his power with the witches, and told them that in his place, they shall guide the powerless humans. The witches agreed and swore to dedicate themselves to helping humans in the name of friendship. However, in the present day, things have taken a horrific turn. A scene shows a large group of ungrateful humans preparing to execute a witch as they scream that they don't need witches and they should be eradicated. The witch hopes that they will all die, but she beats them to it. Elsewhere, our protagonist named Adonis, who is a witch's apprentice, complains about how tired his legs are and how it's way too hot, which makes sense since it's a desert. Adonis grows frustrated since the witch he travels with named Chloe isn't listening, and interrupts him to tell him to quiet down. Adonis wants her to at least use magic to check their location, since it would be a lot cooler than using an old school map. But she calls him an idiot and reminds the boy that magic isn't that cheap. The map lover threatens to leave him behind and gets even more upset when Adonis just uses a device to determine where they are. Little Miss hates technology is furious since she told him numerous times to not use that weird machine since the people looking for them will use it to find them. Adonis calms her down by explaining that it's not a weird device. It's actually a smartphone and he made this one himself, so it can't be used to track them. Our proud little nerd explains that his device uses freeform summoning magic to replace its radio waves with multidimensional photons, so not even the army's triangulation technology can find them. And it doesn't need batteries. The technological genius points out that using maps in this day and age is pretty lame, but Chloe is not impressed. Princess, stuck in her ways, says that they are ready to move again, but Adonis has gotten very serious, and he asks her why they have to keep running. Chloe explains that it's because she is a witch, and attitudes towards witches have changed. Now, simply living is a struggle, blending in when in human cities, living away from human towns. If anything, she is more like a ninja than a witch. Unfortunately, her terrible joke doesn't land, so the two pretend it didn't happen and just keep moving. During their journey, Chloe reminds him that they need to find a place that's tolerant towards witches so they can reclaim their peaceful, happy life. They also need to find a school for him to attend, but our brilliant little technology lover surprisingly explains that school sucks and he'd rather keep studying under her. Chloe inappropriately teases him about liking older women and the two move on. Adonis can't help but wonder why Chloe isn't frustrated. He hates the Red Empire that they reside in, and the evil little dude desperately wants to eradicate humans using magic. Just then, Adonis senses something approaching, and a group of soldiers report back to their headquarters that they have spotted a fugitive witch. Adonis fearlessly states that he will handle the human scum, but Chloe stops him, and explains that he is far too inexperienced. Chloe, who better have something good up her sleeve after holding our boy back like that, starts off with some ice magic as a staff appears in her hand. She sighs while stating that humans never learn and unleashes her spell. Elsewhere, a man just like my accountant apologizes to Emperor Goeth. The Emperor, with a mustache looking like a masterpiece of grooming, calls him an incompetent fool, but the suit explains that Chloe is a high-ranking witch who uses ice magic. He tries to explain that a single squadron isn't enough to defeat her, but someone's foot comes flying out of nowhere to silence him. My accountant is told to learn his place, but he explains that he wasn't doing anything wrong. The Emperor silences everyone and just instructs them to bring Chloe to him immediately, as he refuses to let her escape. Back to the fight, Chloe's in the coolest pose she can make, and we see that she is exhausted after defeating the hopelessly weak humans. Adonis isn't saying anything though and is furious that Chloe always holds him back. He exclaims that he can use spells and wonders why she won't let him fight. Adonis thinks he could have handled those measly wimps easily. He doesn't see the point in studying magic if she won't let him use it. Miss interrupts our boy again and reiterates that he is just too inexperienced with magic. This crazy kid then interrupts her by bringing down a massive sword straight down from the heavens and asking her how could a student of hers be considered inexperienced. Chloe doesn't even address the good point he just made and simply tells him that if he whines too much, she will get mad. However, Adonis has come to a conclusion and assumes that she must be treating him this way because he is a human like them. He believes that she doesn't want him to kill his own kind because she is too nice. Because of this, no matter how much they mistreat her, she suppresses her emotions so he won't fight humans, and she never allows him to fight them. Adonis is at his limit though, and he can't stand not being able to protect her anymore. He tries to express his feelings, but she stops him and just tells him that she feels the same way. As they embrace, one of the humans turned popsicle sticks has a device that confirms their location. Just then, our duo begins to float, and Chloe is shocked to realize that humans must have completed something. She points out that not even witches can achieve long-distance physical travel, but that seems to be what's happening. The ever-heroic Adonis tells her that things will be okay, and he will always be by her side. A look into space shows some pretty out-of-place technology. It's a space station, and the people aboard explain that the transfer is so far a success. The drop-off coordinates are set, and a transfer countdown begins. Back on Earth, Emperor Goeth gives a speech. He removes his crown so the peasant people can relate to him more, and he starts off by saying that he is speaking to them not as their emperor, but as a human being. The emperor, sporting the coolest mustache around, points out that mankind has always been protected by magic. Whenever natural disasters or plagues occurred, they depended on witches, expressed their gratitude for them, revered them, and feared them, due to their power exceeding human knowledge known as magic. Emperor Goeth believes this to be unjust. He states that humans are not just weaklings who must bow to the whims of the witches and beg for their assistance. Goeth, who could probably convince a cat to buy a dog with his speech skills, tells him to behold mankind's creations. Their countless airships fly through the sky, and their metropolis fears no storm. The automatic trains driving through their cities will open up new frontiers. And in their hands, they hold the fruit of their wisdom, the smartphone, a device that can be used to play sweet games and watch AniCap videos. He tells them that humans are not weak. Even without magic, they can mold the natural world and control it with their own strength. Goeth, with smooth talk so good he could sell ketchup as tomato smoothies, tells his people that now is the time to eradicate witches and show the world that they are its supreme rulers. Some random girl compliments the genocidal maniac on his fantastic murder speech, and he states that the world will surely move in a positive direction once the witches are eradicated. Just then, a beam of light strikes the stage, and we see that Adonis and Chloe have been teleported. The two can't believe the terrible things that the crowd is saying to them and become angry when they see that it was Emperor Goeth that brought them. The ever-valiant Adonis instantly springs to action, telling Chloe to run so he can buy her time to escape. He gets stopped pretty fast though, and Goeth is disgusted to see that this human boy has been raised by a witch. We then see that Chloe isn't just some annoying interrupter, as she becomes enraged and tells Goeth that if he values the lives of his people, then he needs to let go of her young apprentice. Not one to make empty threats, Chloe begins a powerful Absolute Zero ice magic spell, and determines that Goeth's silence is his answer. Something big is coming, so Chloe speaks to the citizens. She states that they are humans just like Adonis, so she didn't want to fight them. If she were to destroy them, Adonis wouldn't have a home to return to. This is why she has allowed them to live up to this point. However, they are proving themselves to be too dangerous, and she begins her spell. Unfortunately, she's utterly shocked to see that her magic just stops. Goeth, with his impeccable stash, explains that she cannot understand the power of science humans have acquired. We see the magic photon suppression device that nullified her magic, and the humans in the crowd have a good laugh like they actually did something themselves. As if proud, Goeth expresses his doubt that she even considered that the human she once helped would someday chase her down. Adonis, never willing to give up as our brave protagonist, tries to use his pen, but can't understand why his magic isn't working. Goeth explains that it's time for witches like Chloe to hand over the world, and backhands her right in the face. As if that weren't bad enough, she is also completely exposed, and the crowd begins to take pictures. Adonis is furious to see his teacher humiliated and vows to kill them all, but is once again stopped. He keeps trying, but all he can do is tell her to wait for him, and soon he will be right by her side again. Goeth has had enough of the boy and orders that the boy be shot in the head. Chloe completely changes her defiant attitude to save our boy, and bows to the Emperor. She takes all the blame and explains that the boy has nothing to do with it. He is like them, a human. She lies by saying that she kidnapped him and raised him as her slave. He is a poor, miserable human boy. Completely out of character, Chloe begs and pleads that the Emperor have mercy on him, and she doesn't care what happens to her. Adonis is in absolute disbelief when she offers to be a slave. With frenzied fury, he writes wildly on the ground, every ounce of sanity seemingly abandoned, as he swears to kill them all. Goeth, uninterested in her offer, points a gun at her. Chloe, realizing what is about to happen, calmly calls out to Adonis and thanks him for everything. We get a quick glimpse into when they first met. Chloe took in the homeless, angry little kid and tells him now that she is glad that they met. She begins to say the words "I love you," but before she can finish, the cold-blooded Goeth ends her life. Adonis, frozen in horror, is mortified, and before her body can even hit the ground, Goeth's soldiers follow up his shot with a barrage of bullets. Adonis begs for them to stop, but they are relentless. Their life together flashes before Chloe's eyes, and she thinks about how she was truly happy. The crowd cheers with utter jubilation, and Goeth finalizes her death by having her head cut off. We then learn the rest of what God said when he shared his power with the witches. He told the witches that the humans may fear them as they are timid. He hoped that they would become friends and bring eternal peace to the world. However, should they hate one another and fight, then may the darkness of chaos envelop the world. With Chloe dead and Adonis consumed by a raging fury, the real story can now begin. We move forward 10 years. A couple of prisoners are arguing over some food, but a girl named Daroka offers them her food so they can stop. One of the rude girls takes her offer, but Daroka's friend Anna points out that Daroka gave someone else her food earlier. Daroka keeps her spirits up though, and shows how much energy she still has with a strange dance. Anna points out that no matter how much technology advances thanks to the gear expansion, people keep fighting among themselves. The wars never stopped. She remembers being told that humanity would be happy once the witches were gone, but that hasn't come true yet. Anna, always staying positive, lightens the mood with some expert level puppeteering. Through her puppeteering act, we learn that they are prisoners because they lost to the Empire. Daroka uses the puppet to assure Anna that everything will be okay. Just then, soldiers arrive to call prisoner number 218. Others gossip about how those that get called never come back, and Anna is terrified when she realizes that she is number 218. The soldiers demand that the prisoners speak up, and Daroka fearlessly steps forward. Daroka is taken away, leaving Anna in complete disbelief since that was her number. And as if that wasn't dramatic enough, we see that Daroka left her puppets behind with their number. Daroka is taken to a place where she finds that she will serve as a slave. She sees what happens to those that refuse, and the flamboyantly dressed warden explains that she needs to serve the Empire just like everyone else. He states that running the prison costs money, taxpayers' money, the blood tax of the Empire's people. He asks her who brought about the gear expansion and the explosive rise of human civilization, who used their scientific and military might to defeat the witches and seize dignity for humanity. He answers his own question by stating that it was them, the Redia Empire. He is sure that she will fetch a good price and takes a selfie with her, but instantly regrets it when she bites his finger. Daroka makes an attempt at an escape and tries to open all the cells using the warden's phone. Unfortunately, their technology has voice authentication. She tries to ask it nicely, but that doesn't work, so she does her best impression of the warden. Luckily, her feminine voice is pretty similar to the flamboyant warden and it works. She tells all the prisoners to run, and with that, chaos ensues. Amidst the chaos, Daroka heads to a very special cell made especially for a very powerful person. Daroka is taken down, but the soldiers point out that all cells are opening, and they're in very big trouble. Just then, alarms begin to sound and the chamber begins to open. The guards panic with fear, and we see that it's the overwhelmingly angry Adonis. The guards tremble in fear, and Adonis, with unparalleled anger, breaks free from his shackles. With fear in his voice, one of the guards points out that prisoner 1001 is free, and he wants to report it to the chief. There is no time though, so they make the incredibly wrong decision to try and put him back in the chamber. These hopeless fools think it will help if they all go in at once, but Adonis instantly eliminates one of them. Without a single word or wasted movement, Adonis expertly finishes off the other two. Daroka, probably wishing she still had her puppets, is terrified out of her mind, and Adonis begins to approach her. She begs Adonis not to do anything, but immeasurable anger courses through him, and it's as if words can't reach him. He fires a shot at her, but we see that he's somehow able to still be merciful, as he only shattered chains. An announcement is made to all the guards in the prison, warning that all cell doors and corridor partitions have been opened. Elsewhere, Director Yamato, whose earlobes could probably be seen from space, tells a blonde guy to handle the situation at the prison, and gives him permission to arm himself with weapons greater than Class 5. This guy speaks far too casually for Vice Director Yuki's liking, and is sent on his way. Yuki promises to kill that blonde boy eventually, but Yamato warns against it, as he is a high-ranking executive just like her. Director Pancake for Earlobes is confident in the guy's abilities, but knows that the prison is quite dangerous. At the prison, the chaos continues, and it is reported to the warden that even the confiscated item storage has been opened. He can't believe that Daroka managed to crack his phone's voice authentication system, and is deeply frustrated by her choice to free the one person they couldn't afford to let escape. Elsewhere, we see Adonis atop a building. He tests his powers by firing a bullet, and uses one of his written-style summoning spells called Gain. Adonis, clearly with only one goal in mind, exclaims that it's now time to end every last citizen. Back at the prison, Blonde Boy, whose real name is Eekout, reports that he has searched the entire internment camp but found no signs of the boy. We see that taking care of the situation actually meant eliminating all the prisoners, and he learns that a building was struck by a massive shell. He will head there as soon as possible, but decides that he needs to clean up the cause of the mess first. Back in the city, Daroka's completely distraught. She blames herself for the catastrophe that's to come since she couldn't stop Adonis. Nearby, Adonis roams the city, and we see that his destructive behavior has made the news. It reports that a massive artillery shell-like object was fired into a building. The extent of the damage is unclear, but it could be an attack by neighboring nations. Adonis continues to roam as he thinks about how Chloe would not praise him for what he's about to do. He imagines what she would say, emphasizing that getting revenge won't bring her back to life. He managed to escape, so she will want him to just go enjoy his life. Adonis is able to find just a tiny bit of comfort from these words, but some belligerent jerks, who probably deserve what's coming to them, call him a creep when they see him talking to himself. Adonis acknowledges that 10 years have passed since Chloe's death, but no matter how much time passes, he will never forget what happened. The look in her eyes, her voice, the words when she told him she loved him. He states that he loved her too, just as he starts using his written style summoning magic. The earth shakes beneath the city, and this time Adonis has summoned a giant. Nearby, the police don't believe callers that are calling about a giant, but they quickly realize that something is wrong when a car comes crashing into their building. The driver is terrified of something huge, but the cops, doing what they do best, don't believe him either, and this brilliant detective, that probably deserves a raise, determines that the driver's just drugged out of his mind, and they should just arrest him. Sherlock calls the narcotics division, but quickly realizes his mistake when he actually sees the giant. The giant is doing immense damage to the city, leaving people in peril. Adonis then makes his way to the center of the city, as he exclaims that Emperor Goeth better not try to run. By the Emperor, Yamato is informed of the giant robot. It's passing through the business district and heading their way. They are unable to stop it, and all attempts to reach the Emperor have failed, but the Queen has informed them that he is not well. Director Earlobes declares a state of emergency. He requests air-ground support from all available aircrafts and orders that all armored foot soldiers be sent as well. Yamato marvels at the giant robot and is informed that the boy and his quill have gone missing from the prison, making it clear that the giant must be powered by magic. This makes things much simpler for the pair of earlobes with a body attached to them, as this means they only need to activate their magic photon suppression device. With the extermination of all witches, the device was put in underground storage, and it's uncertain if the 10-year-old device will work properly. Yamato leaves the issue of national importance in the hands of Yuki, and with that, the national state of emergency is declared. The giant continues its rampage, and we see that Adonis's rage spares no lives. Some tanks arrive hoping to end the catastrophe, but their attacks miss badly. For some unknown reason, their shells won't fly straight. Adonis calls them scum as he makes a demand for their lives, and has the giant punch a building with such sheer force that its debris destroys the tanks. Yuki can clearly tell from the massive destruction that Adonis's 10 years in confinement were spent meaningfully. It turned out to be a simulation in his mind without limits. Scientific research conducted within the mind. The ultimate environment to determine the most precise way to slaughter a nation. As Adonis continues his rampage, Yuki explains that the only way for a non-witch to use magic is through written-style summoning magic. It is the practice of understanding and systematizing the mechanisms of magic, and converting them into mathematical expressions using a special quill. However, mastering it wouldn't have been easy without such an excellent teacher. Right now, for Adonis, there's no difference between those who were present 10 years ago and those who weren't. Adonis is relentless in his attack. He states that if killing Chloe was humanity's great purpose, then everyone who lives in the country and reaps the benefits is just as guilty. Adonis then demonstrates his incredible power to summon anything at will, and summons some giant Gatling guns called the Bullet Bell. Our revenge-seeking protagonist is determined to make things right, as he wants to exchange an eye for an eye. He does just as the humans did to his teacher, and sprays bullets down on a large crowd. The young man that we saw 10 years ago has clearly been driven to the absolute edge. With tear-filled eyes and without any semblance of sanity left, he looks to the sky, finding a bone-chilling beauty in the aftermath of his rampage. However, something isn't quite right. Clearly disappointed and still distraught, Adonis wishes he could feel better about things. Nearby, we see that Ikaut is watching, and he is told that the spellcaster is in the palm of the giant's hand. All forces are told that their target is long-term prisoner, the witch's apprentice, Adonis. The assault on the giant starts with a group of fighter jets. They bombard the giant with several missiles, forcing Adonis off of it. With reckless abandon, missiles continue to rain down, putting civilians at great risk. A building is about to turn a very recently orphaned child into a pancake, but Daroka appears out of nowhere to save him. She leaves the kid with a stranger and explains that she is on her way to stop Adonis. On top of a nearby building, Adonis determines that he's out of shape, and soldiers begin to descend on him. Back at the Imperial Castle, we see that while Emperor Goeth managed to maintain his impeccable mustache, he was not able to maintain his health. He is severely ill, so the Queen tells him not to worry about anything, and their empire will be just fine. She tells him to rest and assures that he did a great job as Emperor in making sure the empire would be strong. The Emperor of Simperi credits the Queen for staying by his side and giving him the strength to do what he does. However, he coughs with enough intensity that it could probably dislodge all his internal organs, and we learn that he has an incurable disease. This absolute alpha male with a mountain of testosterone tells him that he needs no doctor since he is totally fine, even though he is casually holding a palmful of his own blood. Goeth begins to wonder if his illness is a curse from God himself. It doesn't matter though, he refuses to repent. They built a hyper-scientific civilization and burned their neighbors, the witches, for the sake of progress. The world and humanity could never advance as long as witches were around. As he gives his little self-assuring speech, we see that Adonis doesn't need any words and continues reducing the population. Goeth continues to explain that humanity must carve its own path alone. The New Age has no need for magic, and if anything, magic would only get in its way. There is one thing he is certain of, and that is that he did the right thing. It begins to rain and Goeth shows that his mustache isn't the only smooth thing about him, as he tells his queen that she is a flower that blossomed on the path of carnage. Elsewhere, Yamato's shocked to hear with his ears that their elite unit has been wiped out. However, what's even more startling is that a civilian is now approaching the target. We then watch as Adonis chokes out a soldier, and the soldier, seemingly with a death wish, tells Adonis that they should have ended his life 10 years ago along with that witch. Adonis, with some of the coldest eyes he will ever see, agrees that they should have ended him, and even he wishes they had. Before Adonis can take out more of his frustrations, Daroka arrives to stop him. She begs that he stop his rampage as he has already taken the lives of many citizens of this empire. She wonders if he hasn't done enough yet, and explains that she doesn't want to see any more innocent people die. The word innocent absolutely sets him off, and he shockingly ends the soldier's life right in front of her. Daroka has made a huge mistake, as her trying to tell him that these people are innocent has made him realize something. He was confused but has now determined that whether they're radiant or not, all humans are his enemies, subjects for extermination even if they're prisoners. Daroka shows no fear though and tells him that Chloe wouldn't want this. She foolishly pushes her luck by continuing to remind him about Chloe, but this just makes Adonis even more furious, and he reminds the human scum to not casually speak Chloe's name. He assumes that Daroka is just there to distract him until the next wave of soldiers arrives. It's exactly the type of things humans would do since they always fight dirty, just like they did back then. He is certain that there's no way the witches would have lost to humans if they hadn't used cheap tricks. He tells Daroka to stay out of it since she knows nothing. However, Daroka knows far more than he thought. She states that his name is Adonis. It was the name the world's greatest witch gave to her beloved student. She then shocks him to his core as she states that this is common knowledge for witches like herself. Adonis is in absolute disbelief for just a moment. She begins to introduce herself, but Adonis becomes enraged again. He is certain that she's just messing with his head, and he points out that all witches are dead. He tells the human scum to never speak of witches again, but she explains that they managed to survive the witch hunts. With a whirlwind of emotions, Adonis asks with frustration that if they survived, why didn't they come to save Chloe? Why did they let their fellow witch die? She apologizes over and over again and explains that they were all desperate to escape. Adonis doesn't want to hear any apologies though, and reminds her that it's too late. Chloe's already gone. Daroka then leaves him in disbelief as she states that Chloe will come back. They will bring her back to life. Adonis only takes this as an insult though, and prepares to end her life for her absurd lies. She pleads to him and explains that she infiltrated the country to save him in order to bring back Chloe. They need his memories of her. They need him to resurrect Chloe. Adonis doesn't even seem to be listening to her anymore as he summons a sword and continues asserting that he will end everyone. He will end her and anyone that gets in his way. He will end anyone who defies him and everyone who speaks of Chloe. Daroka decides that if that's what Adonis needs, then she will gladly give her life to satisfy him. She says that she's just glad to have met him, and Adonis is reminded of when Chloe said those exact words. Adonis collapses to the ground, breaking down in tears. His relentless pursuit of revenge pauses for a moment, overshadowed by the faintest glimmer of hope to bring back Chloe. Adonis isn't sure what to believe anymore, but is certain that he desperately wants Chloe back, and asks Daroka if it's really possible. She assures him that it is. Daroka instructs him to come with her, and promises that he isn't alone anymore. Adonis, changing his focus from vengeance to a desperate grasp at hope, reaches out to her, only to be utterly stunned when Daroka gets shot. It's Eke out, and he's just disappointed he couldn't hit both of them. Thanks for watching the first couple parts of this recap. Subscribe and ring the notification bell for future parts.